You know what's shocking about this episode of Eminence and Shadow? There's barely any fan service. I know that sounds like, why am I even wondering about that or just saying it's weird? But anyone that has legitimately been watching this show and has been watching all the recent stuff, I've talked about it already, but Eminence and Shadow usually has a lot of fan service. But this is honestly a very tame episode. And I think that is just something that is actually worth pointing out before I get into anything else, because it's very quick. I was just like, wow, did not expect the lack of fan service, because I've gotten so used to just blatant fan service all over the place. I was just like, that's kind of shocking. But anyways, getting on topic, talking about this episode of Eminence and Shadow, what makes it good, why I'm enjoying it, and this is kind of our peek at a new arc we're getting into, the Bushi tournament or whatever it's called. Basically, we're getting to see Sid, our MC, actually trying to be serious. And I really love the beginning of this episode. Sid's on top of his rooftop. He is someone that is just gazing over everything, acting as edgy as he normally does, and you get to see him just having this brief little monologue, listen to the people's cries and cheers, and realizing that this festival that is going on is about people coming in and demonstrating their strength, demonstrating how powerful they are, people all around the world coming together to really just showcase their absolute ability. And obviously Sid as a character, he's someone that likes to be a background character. He wants to be one. But at the same time, he also is someone that wants to revel in the fact that he is very powerful and just get people's reactions of someone that's incredibly weak and they turn out to be incredibly strong. It's a trope that is used in a lot of different stories, and I love how Sid really plays up that trope. And let's dive into that first. So basically, what's going on here is that in these type of stories, I think everybody has seen it, it's not just like exclusively to isekai or fantasy stories, but just almost any type of story. It's not even just manga and anime, it happens in just fantasy novels, regular novels, etc. But you have a character that looks incredibly weak. For instance, we enter into, Mundane Man, and they look incredibly weak, they look like they can't really do much, they have bad posture, they just seem like, when you first look at them and how people look at, the character, is like, man, this guy's weak. There's just no way he's going to be able to fight some top tier opponents, the best knights in the kingdom, etc. He's just going to get absolutely obliterated. This is a trope that happens very often in stories, either with main characters or support characters, whatever the case may be. It happens often because they're undersold. And I remember at the time, years ago, it was so long ago, but I have to talk about it. I remember when Naruto was beginning. Like, the series was fresh. It was a brand new anime, brand new manga. Like, we're talking the beginning, like the Chunin exams. And I remember people saying that Rock Lee was incredibly weak. That's what people said. Now, obviously, we know he's not. We all know. I'm not saying Rock Lee's weak. I'm just saying if we go back to the past years ago, like a decade plus, I remember people talking about saying Rock Lee is going to get destroyed in the tuning exams because he doesn't know other skills, etc., and Gaara is just going to obliterate him. That's what people assumed. I remember that discussion. And even some elements within the story, people thought that there was just no way Rock Lee would be able to go up against Gaara. And when you think about that, that trope has just been always in anime and manga. And so when you think about that, and when you apply it to this, I love how Sid uses this old school storytelling or, plot device of a character being weak, but they're actually strong. And I love that. I love how he's like, in this tournament, he's trying to get, show how powerful he is. He's fighting these opponents. Obviously, they think they're really big for their britches, and just Sid comes in and he just knocks them out in one hit. Nobody really even knows what's going on because he's just so highly skilled that nobody really knows what actually happen in these little preliminary fights. I think that this entire concept is legitimately hilarious, and I enjoy it. Now, obviously, this comes down to a matter of taste. I know there's a lot of people that are going to watch this episode and not legitimately like it because of this, and that's honestly kind of what Eminence and Shadow really is. I mean, when we really take a hard look at the entirety of, what this series has to offer, it's just one trope after the next of Sid diving into a trope, kind of twisting it a little bit and playing it up with the farthest antics as possible for comedic purposes. And so when you look at this episode, it's very hilarious because it plays into those cliches, it plays into that trope, and it's not trying to shy away from it. It's very self-aware of what it's doing. Now, obviously, this comes down, like I said, to taste, if you like this or not, but that's honestly the entirety of the series and how different arcs have already been done, and I've talked about this in my different videos of the story so far. So the point is that I legitimately like these arcs, because it's a tournament arc. They're very classic, they're very safe, they're very safe arcs for stories, but depending on how they're done, they can be very entertaining and some of the most memorable moments of the entire story. Once again, gotta bring up, like, Naruto, the tuning exam. We gotta think about, let's say, the Dark Tournament from Yu Yu Hakusho. We gotta think about the Hunter exam, technically, from, Hunter x Hunter. There's multiple tournament arcs that come to mind, and they really harbor a lot of memories, and people hold them fondly in their heart, and because they can really stand out. They have some really shocking moments that can blow everybody's expectations out of the water, and that's obviously what's gonna happen here. Now, here's the thing about Eminence and Shadow, okay, and I'm very curious on the direction it might go. So we know for a fact that Sid, obviously, he's a walking nuclear bomb. We know this. Like, he's a legitimate bomb. Like, you can't... Anyone that tries to square up with him needs to be literally on that level of power. We have seen him just destroy areas like it's nothing, supreme magic, and even square up basically to like the Demon Queen kind of, or obliterate that entire area where the Demon Queen was kind of sealed out, we saw in the previous episodes. So like, we know he's incredibly powerful. He is not someone to scoff at and say he's weak at this point in time. I mean, it's incredibly questionable just how far his level of power actually goes because of just what's been demonstrated so far. But anyways, getting into the point, there is a twist that this arc could do. And what I mean is that Golden Boy here, I think is very important. I want to talk about this man. When you first look at him, he is the cliche. He is the absolute pinnacle and cliche of this guy that thinks he's strong, or this guy that's arrogant, but in reality, he's just all a farce. He puts on this facade, a very fake one, but he puts on this facade, and we know he's just lying. He's just pulling it out of his butt. Everything he says, he's just pulling out of nowhere. And like, to the whole power level, etc. But when you really think about the character, and obviously he's a walking cliche, and people probably won't like him in this episode, it would be interesting, and I don't know if Eminence is going to do that, but it would be interesting if this guy turns out to be incredibly powerful. Like, legitimately powerful. And he is not a throwaway character. I think that would be absolutely hilarious if we come to find out this man is absolutely insane. Like, legitimately insane. Now, obviously, it might just go down the route of him getting one shot by Sid. That's indeed a possibility, but I think that'd be interesting if we have that twist. Like, this guy that obviously appears weak, it would play with the viewer's minds and perception. Because obviously, Sid's supposed to be that character, but we know he's strong. But what if this character that we're getting to see looks weak, but he's actually strong? You see what I'm going with that? But anyways, overall, this episode of Eminence and Shadow, it has a lot of setup. We get a lot of funny moments as well, like with this scene right here. It's so funny. Like, this whole beatdown scene actually is pretty good. I mean, like, when he starts getting told that he is weak and, underleveled or not ready for this fight, he gets taken into the alleyway, he gets beat, but he talks about how he could easily beat this guy by taking out his eyes, etc. And I think this is a legitimately interesting moment to just kind of show Sid's mindset, who he really is, dive more into his character, give a little bit characterization and development. We know who he is already, but it adds more to it that, even though he's getting beat down and he looks weak here, he's incredibly powerful, and this guy is just a pushover. He's a fodder character. He's nothing. He's a small little minnow in this giant ocean. And I think this is a cool scene to really just demonstrate how just powerful Sid really is, and how he's constantly coming up with tactics, but he just takes the punch anyways, because it looks kind of cooler like that to build up that anticipation that he's actually strong. Which, speaking of building up that anticipation, he talks about how, after his fight, he notices the girl, like the princess, she notices, like, something's off about the fight. And he realizes this, and he's like, yes, she knows that it isn't just a fluke, and he's getting excited about it. I'm just gonna say right now, it's gotta be stated, she is gonna fall in love with him. I'm gonna be honest here. It's gonna happen. I mean, when we look at just the cast of characters that surround Sid, or Shadow, it's all female cast. She's probably gonna fall in love with him. I'm just gonna say, she's gonna join the fan club. That's what I think is probably going to happen, judging by, how this is. Now, it'd be even more hilarious if she just falls in love with Mundane Man instead of, like, Sid. I think that would actually be funny. Now, actually, that's something I need to talk about. Mundane Man. So, I think what's absolutely hilarious about this episode, and I think everybody's gonna get it, it's obvious, is that Sid's, alias, how he's, like, hiding his identity is Mundane Man. And, obviously, the joke is just right in your face. It's literally just slapping you in the face. And I have to ask, the parents of that individual, okay, Mundane Man, he was set up for failure. He was literally named Mundane Man. Like, holy crap, his parents must have hated him. Like, there's no way anyone in their right mind would name their child that with good intentions. There's just no way. Like, there's legitimately no way. I just like, yo, why would you do that? Like, yo, that is some of the worst parents I think I have seen, at least in naming sense, for anime. I mean, it's almost as bad as finding out the name to, Rose's, like, betrothed or whatever, or fiance, we get to find out in, this episode, which, it sets up at the end that apparently, she stabbed him or something, which I think is interesting. I don't know necessarily if she did because of mind control or something else that's left to be explained, but that man's name is called, like, something I can't really say because YouTube changed the terms of service this year, so I can't actually utter those words without potential issues with YouTube, which it's not, I don't like doing that, but, YouTube, they make the rules. But, yeah, the name of him, I say, is on the same level as Mundane Man, 100%. But, yeah. Guess I'll leave it at that, though. It's, like I said, it's a good episode of Eminence and Shadow. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next, because legitimately, this is a great story. This is a great series, but obviously, it comes down to personal preference and taste if you, like these tropes and themes and cliches. But okay, you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my video, please leave me a like. It does help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it. It would help with the videos being noticed more in the algorithm. But with that, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.